Alright, welcome back to another exciting encounter and story from PacWest Bigfoot. This is David, and I'm going to go ahead and read you off another awesome story here. Real quick, want to give a shout out to the guys up there in Garibaldi, Oregon for their awesome Sasquatch coffee. By the way, just to let you know, I am sipping on it right now. And just to let you know, one of my favorite flavors, I got two favorite flavors here. One's a dark roast, skookum. The other one is tree knock. Tree knock. That is awesome. Awesome. So let's get on with this story. This one comes from Jack. It's called Rattled by Bigfoot While Camping in the Redwoods. My name is Jack, and I love camping, even today after the incident. However, after being rattled by Bigfoot in the Redwood forest, I'm reluctant to camp anywhere here in the Pacific Northwest ever again. Personally, I'm not sure if it was trying to get at my daughter, me, or it was simply hungry and smelled the food I had stored inside the teardrop trailer we camped in. Either way, here's my story. My chilling, scary story. Sorry about that, guys. This one really gets me. Rattled by Bigfoot. Jedediah Smith Redwood Campground Area. Ever heard of it? Probably if you're a resident of the Pacific Northwest. You know the Six Rivers National Forest and the giant redwoods. Well, I'm not a resident, and I have second thoughts today about heading back west to camp, anywhere there, ever again. But before we go there, let me set up the story. If you are a dad looking to get out with your kids for some one-on-one time, think twice before you enter the woods of the Pacific Northwest. Hey, tell you the truth, I'm still rattled by this 7 years later. My daughter was 10 at the time, and like most daughters at that age, it seemed like they are 10 going on 20. However, Chrissy is a great girl, does well in school, and has a natural knack for paying close attention to detail. She is also somewhat of an artist, unlike her old dad here, who can't draw much more than a stick figure. I am a dad, and when you are the daddy of a baby girl, well, you know how crazy it can drive you when they want to grow up a little too fast. Thus, the reason for the father-daughter weekend camping getaways. This was something we've been doing for a couple years now, and has really become a wonderful way to build a lasting connection with her. And I think she likes it too, even today. Even after this terrifying event, we still camp, although today we stick closer to home in Colorado, and we stick closer to more populated camping resorts. I will try to keep it as short as possible for you, but this story had a few things lead up to a singular moment, a moment that scared us so badly, we fled in the middle of the night, leaving everything behind. Personally, I was open-minded about the possibility of something like Bigfoot or Sasquatch existing, but that was it. I was open-minded about it. Not that I believed it, until now. The early morning creepy. We had been there overnight already, and the first night was rather awesome. The tallest trees we'd ever seen surrounded us like pillars at the Parthenon. Our campsite was also opened above into the night sky. It was beautiful, stars, trees, and here and there, and the hoot of an owl. It was pretty picturesque of the Redwood National Forest, to tell you the truth. My daughter even ordered a cool shirt a month before the yearly camping trip on Amazon. Yeah, like I said, she was growing up too fast and ordering preteen shirts online. I said we could get one while we were there, but she thought these would be cooler than what we might find there. Why argue, I thought. I would rather save the arguments for the bigger things in life, like dating, and... Oh yeah, have I mentioned dating? Which she can do when she's 40. Anyways, back to that terrible night. After the first night of a crackling fire, a great dinner of hot dogs, and great conversation with Chrissy, the next morning was fine, except a few little weird but not too concerning things. Chrissy noticed that there seemed to be some tracks or prints of some kind around the edges of the campsite. She noticed them as she was dumping out the dirty water after washing the dishes. They were rather odd-looking to me, too. First off, they looked rather large. Secondly, they seemed to go completely around the camp, and more than once. And I could not at the time be 100% positive, but I'm telling you, I could make out a heel and toes on one of them. There was so much debris on the forest floor that not all the prints could really be seen thoroughly, but I could tell they went around the site, at least. None came close to our teardrop trailer, though, and that was fine by me. There were no strange smells or even sounds that I could remember the night before. As a matter of fact, I remember hearing owls and other small creatures wandering around running around while we sat at the fire before turning in, but nothing that seemed that big or out of the ordinary. I was a little concerned, but not enough to up and leave, at least not yet. A strange late afternoon. Chrissy and I decided to take a mid-afternoon hike. After cleaning up after lunch, we grabbed our backpacks, water bottles, and of course, Chrissy had to bring the iPhone for pics to share on her Instagram that her mom and I shared. There were 3 trails headed out from our camp alone. One went down towards the creek that led to the Smith River, and the other 2 made a huge circle around the campground, twisting and winding through the thick redwood forest. We opted for the forest. We figured we would save the crystal green clear river for tomorrow. I forgot to mention that there were very little campers this weekend. As a matter of fact, the weather was supposed to be a little nasty, but the good Lord had other plans for it. It was actually rather beautiful. Not to mention we saved our camping trip here just after the main season for that reason. Less noisy people. Guess I should have thought about that better. But then again, Bigfoot. Really? As we made our way down the trail, we came to a section that had 2 very high embankments on either side, and that is where the strangeness of the afternoon kicked in. Heavy footsteps were all I could make of it. Chrissy heard it first. When we came to a section that was just thick with huge redwood trees, and Chrissy started taking pictures of. I think she was going to be a photographer later in life. As we began walking, that is when she noticed the footsteps up the west bank. They seemed to be following along with us, but whomever it was staying just far enough off the trail so that the forest kept them out of sight completely, and they were heavy footsteps. Eventually, she stopped for a moment. Her head was down, yet tilted in the direction of the footsteps. They stopped almost quickly enough that I almost did not hear them, but I did. Chrissy looked at me a little funny, and then asked if I had heard the person or whatever was walking above us. Of course I did, but I told her not to make anything big out of it. Probably just a person wondering the same thing about us. However, I made no vocal expression of our location just in case. As we moved, they moved. It was weird, and actually after a bit a little creepy. I started to worry a little and decided to walk on the other side of Chrissy, closer to the footsteps. We also decided to pick up the pace ourselves. After we picked up the pace, whoever it was seemed to either take off in a different direction or simply stopped following us. After a couple more minutes, I noticed birds chirping again, and wondering if I heard them minutes before. The answer to that question was also creepy. It was no. I did not remember hearing anything until now. The rest of the afternoon hike was great, and my little photographer did a great job of taking up a ton of space with images on the old iPhone. Unfortunately for her, there was no internet service available here so sharing would have to be done later. As the evening fell upon us, we decided to start making dinner. Tonight it was hamburgers, some fruit, and I had some cupcakes the wife made and sent with us. Yummy. Once again, just after dinner, I noticed that the usual noise of crickets and other forest creatures seemed to die down until it came to a complete standstill. It was about 9 p.m. by that point. As I looked around, I stood up, walked a few steps over, and added 3 nice dry logs to the fire. This way I could get more light around us. I have to admit I was feeling a little uneasy, but I nevertheless let that be known to Chrissy. Once that was burning brighter, I walked over to the teardrop and grabbed a flashlight and turned on the little outside light. I placed right above the door for safety. That is when my daughter all of a sudden whispered my name, and not in a light-hearted manner, but in a more frightening manner. As I approached her, she slowly raised her arm and pointed across the main driveway and into the empty camping spot directly across from us. Apparently, Chrissy was already feeling uneasy. Actually, she was now pretty scared. It was a pair of reddish eyes that seemed to be from something tall. Looking at the landscape around us and knowing what that campsite across from us looks like during the light of day, I could see this thing was at least 9 feet tall, or the eyes were off the ground at about 9 feet. At first I thought she was just seeing an owl or some little animal scurrying up a tree, but the shadow revealed a body, like a human-type body. Within about 5 seconds of what seemed like a stare-down, whatever it was turned and walked off into the forest. The same sound of steps we heard earlier in the day could now be heard in the night. I was not all that satisfied that whatever it was had completely gone, so we stayed close to the fire and the gun came out of its case. It was nearly 11 p.m. by the time Chrissy and I started to relax a bit more. I know she was still a little freaked out, but for a 10-year-old, she was pretty resilient. After she headed to the teardrop to hit the sack, Daddy here stayed up a bit longer with the radio on low, just in case. Before she had headed off, though, she stopped by the door with one foot through it, looking back, and asked me, "Dad, do you think that was a Bigfoot?" I wanted to say yes, because that seemed to be the only right answer. But to save her from getting all freaked out again, I said, "No, I think it was just a hiker passing through, honey." She then turned and headed off to bed. I didn't think she believed me at the time, but then again, neither did I. I added some logs to the fire, maybe a little too much. I thought the Forest Service might make a visit, but tonight that would be a good thing. Rattled by what? Bam, bam, bam! After the 3 slaps that literally woke us up, I had Chrissy screaming. That's when we were not only rattled mentally in the trailer, but physically too, as the literal rattling back and forth of it started. I could feel the trailer being lifted up from one side to the other, and that is when another slap came from the other side. There were 2 of them. I felt around quickly for my revolver that had slipped off the little counter next to me in all the commotion. As I reached, Chrissy screamed louder, and then whatever they were outside, one of them started to scream as well. That alone rattled the teardrop and the both of us. The sound literally went through us. I found it. I found the gun. With the revolver in my hand now, I moved myself to the back of the teardrop and motioned for Chrissy to stop screaming, and she did, almost immediately. As the trailer kept rocking now back and forth, I slowly opened the back window, pointed the dangerous end of the gun out the window, and told Chrissy to close her ears. Bang! The shot rang out in the middle of the night. The rocking stopped instantly. Heavy footsteps could be heard running off in 2 different directions. I quickly, and without a second thought, jumped out of the trailer and started hooking it up to the truck with the gun holstered in my pajama pants. Chrissy did not budge, and that was fine with me. Once the trailer was hooked up, I grabbed my daughter, threw her in the cab, and we peeled out of there, only stopping once when we got to the exit where the park ranger stopped us. I told her the story. She looked at both of us for a moment and said, I know. Get out of here. I hope you get home safely." When I told her what happened, she said, "I know." That said it all. And to tell you something I believe today, I think all camping areas throughout the Pacific Northwest should have a warning sign of these things. See, when I got out of the trailer and was hooking it up, I shined the light into the direction of the forest. And what turned and looked at me about 20 yards away was huge, scary, and was not happy at all that I had created a sound that loud. Hairy, tall, red eyes that seemed to glow, and a face that looked like a combination of a great ape and, well, I don't know, possibly human, but not quiet. Today, Chrissy and I camped close to home, But we still camp. She is 17 now, and we remind ourselves of that moment from time to time. Her mom, my beloved wife, hates the tale, and for legitimate reasons, but still, it happened, and it changed our belief about creation and what is out here today. Thanks again, Jack.